My name is Hannah, and this is my year of less stuff. Hey y'all, welcome to a super exciting video in which I'm going to be thoroughly reviewing 5 mineral sunscreens from 5 different K-beauty brands. These sunscreens were all sent to me by YESSTYLE, but with no strings attached, which is what I require. So they didn't ask me to do this video. They knew that I might not do a dedicated video on these sunscreens. They were just like, hey, do you want to try these sunscreens? Because I think that they're running a promotion right now, so they're sending a bunch of sunscreens out in PR. And I don't put chemical sunscreens on my face. I've been spooked out of ever using them again because I have a history of acne. So I was like, if you can send me only mineral sunscreens to try, then yeah, go ahead and send them along. And they did. They sent me 5. So I'm going to be showing you what they look like when they're applied to the skin, comparing the formulas to each other, and comparing all of the formulas to my ride or die sunscreen, which is the Aaron's Face's Peptide Mineral SPF. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome to my channel. I am Hannah. I love beautiful things and beauty products, but I used to spend too much on them. I used to buy too much. I used to be a real overspender, and it took me a lot of time and energy to extract myself from that habit. So here on my channel, we appreciate beautiful things, we celebrate beautiful things, but we remember not to buy too many of them and definitely not to spend too much on them. So if that sounds good to you, please subscribe. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. So the first one is the Cosrx Shield Fit All Green Comfort Sun. YESSTYLE sent me this bottle, which is about an ounce, or this tube, but when I looked it up on their website, they only had a different shaped bottle of the same product that's bigger. So the one that's actually available in YESSTYLE is a 50 milliliter bottle that's about 1.5 ounces, and it's $20. So this breaks down to about $13 per ounce. It's actually the most expensive of all of the sunscreens I'm going to be talking about today, including the one from Aaron's Faces. But to buy one bottle, it's just $20. It's not like the most expensive of sunscreens out there. It's just when you break it down per ounce that you see that it's $13 per ounce. That's not too expensive for me personally for sunscreen. It's just on the high end of these sunscreens that we're discussing. I'll roll the footage of myself applying this sunscreen, and I'll tell you that it feels a little bit thick. It's not runny, it's definitely creamy, but it soaks in, leaving a slight greasy feel initially. So it definitely feels like it's moisturizing the skin, and I believe that that's one of its claims. But that slight greasy feeling, or that slightly moisturized feeling, then pretty quickly kind of sets or dries down. So it soaks in pretty fast and it leaves a dry feeling, an almost powdery feeling on the surface of the skin, but it doesn't leave the skin feeling dry. It just doesn't stay moisturized on the surface of the skin like some products do and like some of the other sunscreens do. This is one of the scented ones. Not all of these are scented. It has a light, pleasant green tea scent. It really, really smells like a green tea. It's not as heavily scented as some other K-beauty products that I've tried, but the scent is definitely there. It's part of the experience of using it. All in all, this is a very pleasant skincare feeling type product to use. It's not my favorite of these 5, but it's very, very good. Next up is this Etude product. It's the Cicative Zinc Sun Cream. It says it's a mild physical sun cream for sensitive skin. This applied more similarly to the first one than the two of them feel to some of the other ones. So it also is a pretty sturdy cream on the fingers. It doesn't run, it holds its shape when you squeeze it out. I'll go ahead and roll the footage of myself applying it, and I'll tell you that it actually does feel, when you're applying it, a bit more lotiony than the Cosrx one. It rubs in easily, it sets pretty fast, but it leaves kind of a moisturized feel behind, like a lightly moisturized feel. Both of them, both this one and the first one, they feel a little bit thicker and stiffer at first, and they also look a little bit thicker. They look quite white and thick at first, like a traditional mineral sunscreen. But then when you start rubbing them in, they really emulsify and pretty much completely disappear. On my skin, there's not a trace of a white cast. I'm pretty pale, but looking very, very close, it's hard to believe that either of these would leave a white cast, at least not a substantial one, not one that you can't work with, on pretty much any skin tone. I can't say that for sure because I have only tested them on myself, but it is pretty impressive how completely they blend away and soak in. This one has the strongest scent of all 5 of these K-Beauty sunscreens. It's a pretty strong, like sassafras floral scent. It's quite perfumed. Next up is this sunscreen by Purito. It has a very cute name. It's the Comfy Water Sunblock. And this is actually touted as being a pretty clean sunscreen, I think. It says it's essential oil free, no stickiness, light texture, 70% water-based formulation, and it says it's a comfortable, unscented daily physical sunblock that shields the skin. So it's specifically saying that it's unscented, and it's specifically saying that it doesn't have essential oils in it. They've made an effort to make this work for people who are worried about skin irritants. I'll go ahead and roll the footage of myself applying this. It squeezes out of the tube with some body, like you can see, like the first 2, it holds its own, it holds its shape, it's not runny, but it has more of a foamy consistency than those do, a much more watery and fluffy consistency. So when you start rubbing it, it kind of melts away into something more water-based. Of all of these, it's the one that reminds me the most of the one from Erin's Faces that I love so much in terms of the way in which it's cosmetically elegant, because it feels like the sun-blocking ingredients are suspended in a very watery formula that easily adheres to the skin and really, really becomes one with the skin. It leaves behind kind of a barrier feel on the skin, a bit more than the first 2, one of which was sort of moisturized to dry, and one of which was sort of like faintly moisturized, like moisturized with a serum. That's how my skin feels after the second one. After this one, my skin feels moisturized in kind of a waxy way, almost as if there is something on the surface of it really trapping the moisture in. As it soaks in, it becomes a little bit drier, a little bit more powdery and less grippy, but I still really appreciate that feeling of moisturization that it leaves behind. Forgive me, I forgot to talk about cost per ounce for the second sunscreen, the one from Etude. It's a 1 ounce tube and it's about $10 on YESSTYLE, so it's $10 per ounce. Still more than some of these other ones, but less per ounce than the first one. And then this one that I was just talking about, the one from Purito, I actually couldn't find it on YESSTYLE, which is super weird because they just sent it to me, but I did track it down on Amazon. This is a 2 ounce bottle, and on Amazon it's selling for $15. So this comes in at the low, low price of $7 per ounce. Pretty amazing for the elegance of the formula. This one is by Etude House, and it's called the Soon Mild Defense Sun Cream. This one I also couldn't find on YESSTYLE. I also had to track this one down on Amazon, and it's 1.5 ounces for $12, so it comes out to about $6 per ounce. Very close in price per ounce to the one from Purito, but it's a bit of a smaller bottle. This one, and I'll go ahead and roll the footage of myself applying it, this one is the thickest and the stiffest of the 4 of them. It feels the most like a traditional sunscreen. It really feels like it has body. It really feels like a barrier, and it has a smell almost faintly like a beach ball, sort of, and in that way it reminds me a little bit more of traditional sunscreen. But the thing that's crazy about it is that it definitely rubs in clear, in spite of its initial beefiness. It's not a very stiff cream, it's soft, but it just has substance. It feels like it has some waxes, some moisturizers in it that are really, really giving it substance. There was no discernible white cast for me. It definitely turned into something super clear and sheer as I rubbed it in, but it's the one of all 5 of these K-Beauty sunscreens that leaves behind the most moisturized feel. It definitely felt like the heaviest skincare of all of them. in addition to being a sunscreen. It's also heavier in that way than the one from Erin's Faces. So of all 5 of these, it's the only one to me that stands apart as something that I might occasionally want to reach for instead of my Holy Grail, instead of the Erin's Faces one, because it's so thick. With this, I feel like I'm adding like a moisturizer level of moisture on top of my other skincare. I don't always want that for the daytime. I really like going kind of light with my layers of skincare during the day. Again, that's part of what I love the Erin's Faces for. But if there's ever a day when my skin feels so dry that I need to put as much moisture as I can on it, then I will go to this for my sunscreen. And the scent, I briefly mentioned this before, but it's like a very faint plasticky scent. I think that it's probably considered unscented. To me, it smells ever so faintly of like a beach ball or some sort of like inflatable furniture. Lastly, I'm going to tell you about this Make Prem Protect Your Skin from the Sun UV Defense Me Blu-ray Sun Fluid. This is really interesting. It is more different from the other 4 than they are from each other because it really is a fluid. I'll roll the footage of myself applying it and you will see me pouring it out onto my fingers and see how runny it is. It just flows down the hands. And that's kind of attractive to me. There's something that I like about a super fluid sunscreen, not just for the face, but for the body. This applies exactly the way that you would think it does from the way that it looks. It applies like a thin lotion and it soaks in instead of drying down on the surface of your skin. It really feels like a lotiony serum, and it leaves the skin feeling like you've just applied a serum. The way that the Erin's Faces one leaves my skin feeling like I've just applied a serum. This is a bit heavier than the one from Erin's Faces. It doesn't feel as water-based. It feels more lotiony than the Erin's Faces one and more lotiony than the one from Purito. But there's definitely something to be gained in terms of cosmetic elegance by how liquid the formula is. I like it for the face, but the thing that I really love this for is the body. I don't like wasting my Erin's Faces sunscreen on my body. I value this partly because it has peptides in it. It's really good skincare in addition to being a good sunscreen and being cosmetically elegant. So I'm actually really happy to have this because I'm going to be using it on my body. I used it all over my body when I went to the beach last week. I just went and laid out on the beach for a little while, and I did miss a spot on the back of my leg and get a little bit of a sunburn, but everywhere that I applied this, it protected me from the sun for the couple of hours that I was lying on the beach. So this has been given like a really good test run. Spreads really well, it rubs in really well, it soaks in, it feels like a sunscreen serum, and it's so much easier to apply that to the body than a thick cream. The other thing that's great about it is that it has the lowest price per ounce of any of the ones we're talking about today, including the Erin's Faces. This is a 7-ounce bottle. It's almost 7 ounces, 6.7 ounces, and it's more expensive per bottle. It's $33 on YESSTYLE, but that breaks down to $5 an ounce. That's less than half of some of the other ones. So let's talk favorites. I would say that the first 2 are probably my least favorite because of they're so scented. And it's just like, why? They're also the most normal in terms of the way that they apply and dry down. They're perfectly fine. They're great. Like if I didn't have a sunscreen and one of these was an option, I would absolutely grab them. And I tried them first and second, and I was actually really impressed. Like I tried this one first and I was like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely going to be the best one. And then I tried this one and I was like, wait a second, this one is as good as the first one. And then as I moved on through the other three kind of put these to shame. So there's nothing bad about them. It's just that they're losing points as compared to the other ones because they're scented. They're also a little bit more on the expensive side. They're $13 an ounce and $10 an ounce respectively. And the other three K-Beauty ones are $7, $6, and $5 an ounce. Of the other 3, it's a little bit hard to pick a favorite. The one from Purito stands out because of how water-based the formula feels. It feels very gentle, and it's specifically formulated for sensitive skin, and they're very explicit about it being unscented. I think that that's great. So it stands out for those reasons. For me, the one from Etude House stands out because it's got such a beefy, moisturized feeling. And then this one stands out for me, again, because it's such a great price per ounce, works beautifully on the body. I have to say it was a real pleasure putting this all over my body on that day that I went to the beach. I usually dread and despise putting sunscreen on my body, but this makes it feel like I'm doing something good for my skin because it just feels so good on the surface of the skin. So that's a real standout. Now let's talk about whether any of these gave my favorite a run for its money. I think that this one does a little bit in terms of how moisturizing it is. This sunscreen doesn't serve that purpose. That's part of why I picked it originally as the winner when I was searching for the best mineral sunscreen, because I wanted a sunscreen that would work on days when I didn't really want to add extra layers of stuff to my skin, and I also wanted one that felt like it was doing good things for my skin. And this checks both of those boxes. The way that it applies is like something slightly whipped, and the particles that are going to protect your skin feel suspended in a very watery base. So you start putting it on, and for a while it just feels like it's sort of moving around on the surface of the skin like a semi-watery cream, and then instantly the water soaks in and it just feels like this beautiful, finely dispersed, slightly serum-y sun protection. For a go-to everyday fallback sunscreen, that is what I was looking for, because there are many days when I don't feel like having something as heavy as this on my skin. I'd say the one from Purito is the one that's most similar to the one from Erin's Faces in terms of the way that it applies. I have dry skin and I love these, but I also think that this kind of formula, this kind of like melty water-based formula that really just soaks in, is great for oily skin because it doesn't really feel like it leaves behind a layer of something. Through all of this, my loyalty to the Erin's Faces peptide sunscreen has not wavered, partly because the ingredients list of this is so great to me. These 5 all have longer ingredients lists than the one from Erin's Faces. They all have silicones and dimethicones in them, if that's something that matters to you. I didn't see anything on any of the ingredients lists that made me just be like, oh, a scandalo, you know, that made me like never want to put it on my face. Except for maybe the fragrance level in these first 2 compared to these 3. I think these are better in that way as well. This just has an undeniably wondrous ingredients list, and it also has those peptides in it, that Matrixyl 3000 in it, which is just fantastic. These, some of them do have skincare claims, some of them have Centellica asiatica in them, which is lovely, and I think that it's great that they're going to contribute some of them to the health and the moisture level of your skin. But in terms of being a boon for the skin, none of them hold a candle to the Erin's Faces. When I apply this to my skin, I feel like I'm really doing something good for my skin in addition to the fact that I'm protecting from the sun. I don't feel quite that same level of faith in these guys in terms of them being like skincare powerhouses. I just think of them as being 5 very well formulated, all mineral sunscreens that are cosmetically elegant and do the job. Sadie came over to film the outro with me. That is it. I hope that, oh no, that is it. I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. I hope that it was comprehensive enough. Cat hair. Thanks to YESSTYLE for sending these sunscreens along. It ended up being such a fun project to get to know them, and such a pleasurable one too, because they're all so good. So I really, really appreciate it. And it'll also be fun to review this makeup and this t-shirt. And they also sent me another kind of ridiculous t-shirt, so I'll be debuting that soon. Keep an eye out for those videos. Thank you for being here, and don't forget to take extra good care of yourself today so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.